Hi, in this video I'm gonna show you 6 easy CSS tricks that are easy to implement in order to improve the look and feel of your website. So the first one that I want to talk about is Flexbox. Ever since Flexbox has been introduced, arranging items in a page has never been easier, so if you haven't tried it out, please do, as it has a very easy learning curve. Basically, all you need to do is to wrap your elements inside a container that has a display flex attribute and just play around with the other attributes. So I have 3 items in here, 3 divs that are inside the flex container. And currently I have set them to flex direction row, justifying content flex start, and line items flex start, which means they are situated one right in front of the other at the beginning of the container. If I want to mess around with them, I can switch the flex direction to column, and the items will be seated in a column. Or I can change. Let's say I want them to be in the middle of the of my container. So I just switch. I just change the value of justify content to center, and I have them right in the center of my div on the x-axis. And if I want them on the y-axis, I change the align items to center as well. And that's pretty much it. It's so easy to do that. There are other attributes as well that you can use depending on your needs. You can check all of them inside the MDN documents. You can read about everything in here. So you have options such as let's say I want them to not to be in the default order. I wanted them in reverse order, so I can put just row reverse, and they start from the last item to the first one. So there are a lot of options like this, and it requires just an attribute change. Also, another thing that you can do for quick preview, you can also use the console. So if you go to the div that has your display flex option, you can just click this icon, and you have an editor right here to have a quick preview. So let's say I want to switch my direction from row reverse to column, just to see how it looks like. I can do it straight away like that. So yeah, it's very, very easy to use, and it solves a lot of issues with positioning your items inside of a container. CSS Box Shadow is a property that allows you to add shadow effects to your elements, giving them a bit more depth and a more visually appealing look. You can have it outside of your element, like a shadow basically, or inside it with the insert attribute, depending on however you want to style it, by specifying values for color, size, blur, radius, and spread radius. Let's see how it looks like in our example here. So I already added it. It looks something like this. So it adds a bit of a shadow to our items. You can play around with however you want it to look like. There are multiple generator websites, and they have one in their documentation. So you can just add an element and play around with the background shadow. You can just move it around, change the color until it arrives at a point where you're happy with, and you can test it in your project. So you can just copy paste this and to one of your elements. Or there are multiple examples online if you're not sure of how you want to have it. So we can use something from here. Let's say this one. It's a bit more striking, I think. Let's see how it looks like. So it looks like something like this. We can actually change this maybe with a red background. It looks a bit better. Not really, but you can style it however you want. Usually you can have something more subtle and that goes a long way. It adds a bit of flair to some designs. That's very, very subtle. Let's see. Maybe something like this. So in some cases that this might work, depending on your design. But that's a really nice way to enhance a bit the design of a module. Next thing, we have hovering over an element. Might seem like a small thing to add an effect over hovering an element, but sometimes it can be a very easy way to enhance the user experience. So I have a button in here. Let me just style it in a second. So let me just copy paste just some styling from here. Button 1. What do I need? Some background color. Let's make it red. And some padding, suppose. So it looks something like this. So while I'm hovering over it, it doesn't do anything. So here hover comes in handy. So let's change the color. Let's add the hover effect and do something like changing the background color. So when my cursor is over it, it changes to blue, let's say. So that's what hover does. But doing it like this, it doesn't really look that nice. So usually you want this effect in like a menu or a form or something like that, and the effect to be a bit more subtle, so that it highlights a bit when you hover over it. So you make sure that when you're gonna click on the button, an action is gonna happen. That's why I have. So next to it, that's why I have this example that is a bit more subtle, looks a bit nicer, and it makes a whole lot of difference when you have it like this in a menu pretty much, or in a form. Another use case would be when you have a card that has something in front of it, and when you hover over it, something in the back of it shows as well. So let me just show it in here. Remove this. So it got something in the front of it, and when you hover over it, it's got something in the back. So this can be useful in a section when where you highlight some people, and let's say you have the image and the name of the person, and when you hover it, it highlights their position in the company, or a description or something like that. And yeah, that's a useful scenario. And in order to implement something like this, you need to be aware of properties such as transition or transform, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. So the cursor property is another easy thing to implement, otherwise some interactions with the page might seem a bit out of place. So when hovering over a button, like in this case, if the cursor is still an arrow, it doesn't really feel like the button is clickable. It looks like the hovering animation is still there, but it feels more like an animation and not something interactive. Like let's say in this case where I have a pointer. So we know for sure that when we have a click event, that the button is made to be interactive, so an action is going to happen. And that's not the only scenario where we use pointers. They are mainly used to literally point us towards an element's functionality, such as indicating clickable links or draggable items or other custom interactions. So, for instance, take this case where I have a grabbing action. So we have a cursor called grab. So it points that this item can be grabbed, and we also when it's active, so we click on it. There's also a grabbing interaction, so that we know that item we have literally grabbed that item. And in scenarios where you want to grab an item from a list or from a table and literally drag it onto another table, it shows that action is possible. And for all the possible types of cursor that are available, you can find them in the MDN docs with some examples in here. And also, if you scroll down, there are also listed in here with some explanations and description for each one of them. And if you're still not happy and you want something more particularized, more customized, you can actually have a custom one, whether you want it from a different URL or you have something locally. Let's put it in here. So I have one example in here from a custom URL. So it looks something like this with a rainbow. So you can also have something customizable if you want it for your particular example of a website or a case. So I mentioned CSS transitions before. So basically, a transition is a small animation that acts between two visual states of an element. So it starts in state 1, then it transitions towards state 2. So I created another button in here. So I'm having basically another hovering action to the button. And I have this. I have a transition attribute with 3 values. So basically, the first value is the CSS attribute. Then the timing from the first state until the other state, the second state. The timing that it takes from one state to another, and then the type of transition. And the first it starts from this background color, and in the second state it transitions to this color. So in their documentation, you basically have 4 values for the transition attribute. So as I said, the property is the first one. So the CSS property, it can be font size, it can be pretty much everything. Then the duration between the 2 states, the timing function, which is the type of transition, and there's another value that is optional that has a delay. regarding the timing function, you can actually check it out in their documentation. So it basically is, as I said, the transition between two states, the type of animation. So a linear animation looks like this. Ease in, if you want it in multiple steps like this. You can check the documentation. There are multiple types of transitioning. CSS animations, on the other hand, are basically similar to transitions, but the difference between them is that while the transitions happen between two states, with the animations you have more control over the other animations. So they have what they call keyframes. This keyword lets you specify multiple points of animation. So I have here an example with the bouncing ball. So I have the animation keyword on the element, which has multiple values. In this case, I have, so the first one specifies the particular keyframes it refers to. 2 seconds, the animation for different transitions, and infinite, it's basically to repeat the animation of an infinite amount of times. And how the keyframe works, basically you define different points of animation. So in this case, when I'm at 0%, which means when the state begins, the animation begins, and when it ends at 100%, I want it to be on top. So on this position, and when it's at half, 50%, I want it to be here. So basically, it goes from one state to the other and back to the position. So first state 0, second state 200 pixels, third state back up. Animations have a lot of good use cases when you want to enhance the user experience. So you can basically draw anything on the screen. You can have some feedback for form validation. You can have progress bars, some animated logos, some scrolling effects, some button click effects, some animated charts, stuff like that. And the biggest advantage is that you don't load anything from JavaScript, so it should be pretty quick. You can read more about what are the possibilities of using animation, because it can get quite complex, but you can there's a lot of potential in here. And the last trick of the video is a loader. So think about a situation where you have you get some data from an API or from the backend or from a different source, and the data it takes a while to load onto the screen. So it doesn't look that great having a container with some tables or some components that are empty. And also the user doesn't really know what happens if the data loads, if something is stuck. So usually in this scenarios, it's always good to have a loader, usually a spinner. So you can do that again with animations or through JavaScript. There are different ways. So yeah. It's a quick one, but it has a good impact on user experience. So yeah, these are some of my tips and tricks that I can give you in order to improve the user experience of your application. Thank you and have a great day.